Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's that time of year again, and no, I'm not talking about Christmas, but hopefully everyone's staying safe and at home during this holiday season. With that being said, it's actually the time of year where I compare my current ISP, which is Comcast Xfinity, to whatever else is out on the market. And currently, I'm looking at potentially switching to at&t because Comcast has a 5 meg limit on the upload speed unless you use gigabit Ethernet. And at this time, I really need that upload for YouTube videos, especially since we've improved the production on the channel and I'm starting to do a lot more 4K stuff. So with that being said, one of the newcomers to the ring that I'm comparing is actually fixed wireless / cellular. With the advent of 4G LTE and 5G, you're starting to get a much better throughput on your speeds on the upload and download side. So I want to compare that and see if now is the time to switch to cellular over the traditional ISP. All right, so we're out here near a local hardware store, and I know there's a 5G tower here because I actually had to upload one of my more recent videos using my cell phone. The internet on the 5G tower was much faster than what I had at home, considering Comcast has recently changed my upload speed to about 5 megs, which just isn't going to get it when you're trying to upload YouTube videos. So as you can see here, hopefully you guys can see through the rain, there's a 5G tower right across the street, and that's probably the closest tower to my house that actually has 5G dedicated service. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna run speed test on the phone real quick, just to give you guys pretty much a baseline of what you would get more so in the perfect conditions. So we're gonna go ahead and start that, and we're gonna see what we get here. Now, this is supposed to be a baseline, but I am kind of out here with probably limited bandwidth because there's a lot of traffic on the street, so a lot of people have their phones out, so we'll run it more than once. And also, I'm probably being throttled after uploading that large video to YouTube, that 4K 30, what was about 30 gigs, I think. So I may be throttled a little bit. But you can see right here, look at that upload speed. We're getting about 49, 50, 53. The other day when I uploaded the video, I was getting about 75 up and about 80 or so down. So we'll run it one more time just to see if those numbers improve. And then after that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna drive around the main part of this area, more so near my house and back around some of the other businesses. There's one dead spot I wanted to show you guys. We'll probably do like about 3 or 4 speed tests just to give a couple of comparisons. And I'm also gonna map it as we drive in the vehicle so you guys will be able to see where there are some dead spots in relation to where this antenna is. So yeah, so we got download 36 that time and upload was about 52. And I'm just gonna go on my results here and let's see, there it is. So I was getting about, you can see 105 and 61, and then in that same time frame, this was the one I was talking about where I got about 88 and 75 down, 12 millisecond on the jitter, 30 millisecond on the ping. So great results there. But as you can see, even with that, those numbers fluctuate up and down heavily. So now that we have our baseline, we're going to go ahead and switch to this Network Cell Lite app, and you guys can see. So you see right now we're getting a negative 66 on the gain, and it's saying the neighboring towers getting about 77, which is very good. You'll see at some points when we get and let me switch to the map view here. You'll see at some points when we get near my house and one of the other businesses that I wanted to reference, those speeds will really drop drastically. Right now you can kind of see the other towers that are near us, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start driving so you guys can see how this number fluctuates. So just based on the map, you see us here, we're gonna make basically like a little bit of a square just to kind of compare the speeds. And again, like I said, this is perfect real world well, not real world, but perfect scenarios where that was right under the tower. So you guys will see as we drive, especially once you get inside of a building, you know, radio frequencies do tend to drop off here and there. So that's something else to consider if you guys are considering, you know, switching to a provider that provides internet over cellular as opposed to a provider that's going to provide, you know, dedicated landline internet. And that was one of the things I was thinking. Is it worth it? You know, it's $50 a month guaranteed through T-Mobile. Verizon and at&t are rolling out some similar plans. I don't know how that's going to work with at&t, considering that they are a landline provider. But the 5G networks, once they do start to take off and you get more of them, at some point we probably will do some reevaluation and likely switch. So as we're driving, I'm going to give you guys the idea of what I was thinking about doing with this T-Mobile device, with this 4G at home. Well, I don't know if it's 4G or 5G. Talks are that they are coming out with the 5G at home device. If it had external antennas that I could hook into, I would just take my antenna that's in the attic, since it is a radio frequency, and convert the connectors to plug into the modem. I've done this with other devices in the past and had great success with it being a dedicated antenna, you know, in my attic, and that I can catch, you know, digital channels on. I'm pretty sure it'd be the same for the network, but since we can't really test it without voiding the warranty, I don't really think it's as good of an option, especially considering what you guys will see from us driving around and some of these speeds and the inconsistencies. I just can't guarantee that I would get optimal speeds at home, even using that antenna. So that's probably the biggest factor as to why I won't be switching from Comcast to T-Mobile. More than likely at this point, at&t is the runner-up because they do offer a dedicated symmetrical connection. And we'll look later, but I think it's like 100 up, 100 down, something like that. And that'll probably do well for what I need. But and again, those were speeds probably a year or two ago when I first switched to Comcast from at&t. And I think those speeds may be a little bit higher as of today. So I'm gonna shut up now and I'm gonna drive and let you guys watch kind of the map and, you know, speed it up so you guys can kind of see what I was talking about with the variations. All right, so we're in my neighborhood. I figured this would be a good time to run a test. Let's go ahead and pull speed test back up, since we're actually not too far from a tower, and we'll see what speeds we get. So the irony of this test, I ran this the other day and my download speed was actually slower than this. My upload speed's a little bit, it's about the same. They've cut a couple of trees down, so since then the line of sight to this antenna is a little bit better, I'm assuming. So that's another thing, your line of sight, and not just your antenna strength, line of sight to the tower also matters. If you can get a clearer line of sight for some reason, you should be able, in theory, to get a better signal. So we're just gonna drive around a couple of areas in the neighborhood. If any of my neighbors are watching, this is what the T-Mobile service looks like in this area. Whenever I actually first looked at purchasing my home, the first 2 months we had to use cellular, and I basically tethered my phone to a PC and then hooked my network card on the PC to the router, and that's how we were getting internet for like the first 2 months. So we switched to T-Mobile actually for that reason. They had better coverage in the neighborhood. I ran a similar test with at&t and Verizon back then, and T-Mobile had the better coverage in the neighborhood area. So that's why I'm using T-Mobile, and that's kind of how we came up with that solution. You know, cost was also a factor, but for signal strength, quality, and some of the other providers that were in the area, that was kind of how we ended up on T-Mobile. So again, I'm gonna shut up again until we get to our next download spot for our hotspot test here in a second. Okay, so I picked this spot for a couple of reasons. One, it's kind of secluded in the back of the neighborhood. They're still developing here, which is also the reason number two I picked it. Most of these homes, like when I first moved in, they don't have internet in the neighborhood, in this part of the neighborhood yet. So they may have to rely on cellular or a hotspot for a period of time. So something like the T-Mobile home router may be a good option. And as you guys can see, we have a tower right there, and we're gonna run another speed test right here just to see what our speeds look like in comparison to earlier. And as you guys can see from the phone, we had a couple of orange spots, a little bit of green, a little bit of yellow, and we will go ahead and switch over to speed test. I'm gonna go ahead and run that, and let's see what we get. Yeah, as you guys can see, I picked this spot the other day, and look at that download speed. I mean, if you care more about download and you don't have to upload, I would probably consider this T-Mobile hotspot right here. And now you guys are gonna see why. 285 on the download, and look at that upload speed. Still beating what I have at my house. 21 up on the upload for $50 a month, guys. Remember that. So for my neighbors, if you're watching again, if you live in the back part of the neighborhood and you don't do the kind of stuff that I do, and you want to save some money on your home internet bill, check into T-Mobile. There's literally a tower right across the street from you, and you can get about 300 megs down and about 20 up, you know, considering the congestion on the network, which again is something to take into consideration. So with that being said, I want to take you guys to this next spot where I know for sure it's a dead spot, and we'll see what the coverage there looks like, because I got a feeling that's going to be the one that kind of proves my point. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the last area I wanted to show you guys, and you will kind of see why on the map. You see all of this orange and yellow mixed in, and you see how close that tower is? By comparison, this is where we started at over here. We're less than, I would say, a mile from that 5G tower, and we are still getting orange and red. Now there's a couple more buildings, a little bit more in the way of obstructions, but that's kind of why I say, even if you're in a general vicinity nearby, and none of this is over 2 miles from each other. All of these areas are within, you know, reasonable distance to each other, and we're still getting poor signal quality. So again, that is something to consider when you're doing this. So we'll go ahead and switch back to the house, and we'll do a comparison there just to kind of close things up. Okay, so the last speed test I want to do is actually from here in the home. As you guys can see, I have almost a perfect 5G signal in the house, but that may be deceiving. Let's go ahead and run the test and see what our results end up coming out to be. So as you guys can see, we got about 18 down and 11 up with about 236 milliseconds of jitter and a 4% loss rate, which is, it can be high depending on what you're doing. And for those of you who don't know, jitter is basically the variation in time between packets arriving caused by network congestion or route changes, which again, we may be in a more highly congested area due to the fact that the infrastructure hasn't caught up with the amount of homes being built in this neighborhood. So that's something to keep into consideration, especially with how much further away I am from the tower than the scans I did at the front of the neighborhood and at the back of the neighborhood. I'm more centrally located in the neighborhood, and there's not really a tower per se close to me like those other two areas. So you do have some variation there, and with all the homes in the way, stuff like that, and not having a strong signal closer to the roof, things like that play a factor.
All right, guys, so here we are in the attic, and I came up here for two reasons. One, to show you guys what I meant by using an external antenna. A lot of you guys may have, or at one point, seen antennas similar to this guy up here, and they make variations of these for specifically cellular devices. I myself have used them for cradle points and devices such as that take a cellular SIM card and then have external antennas that can hook up to them. And from that, you can generally boost your signal even when, past the standard little small antennas you have. The other thing I wanted to show you guys was this foil-like vapor barrier and radiant barrier that's actually on my roof. I have a great feeling that this is probably causing some issues with the cellular reception here in the house. So with that being said, that kind of is why I think even if I were to get this T-Mobile wireless router, or cellular router I should say, that I'd probably still have issues with reception. Although this antenna does help a lot, just using a regular antenna in the home, and then once we put that up there, it boosted the signal quite a bit. So I do think if I had something with external connections, that would be great. I'm gonna show you guys here real quick what some people have done with the T-Mobile with the T-Mobile routers to boost the signal. And I just don't want to do it because obviously they make comments that this could void the warranty, and that's I really don't even feel like going through all of that for something that may or may not solve my problem.
Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the big three. And by the big three, I'm referring to AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. We'll start with AT&T. As you can see, their plan starts at $49.99. That's 12 months service, and you get about 250 gigs a month. Yeah, that's not going to cut it. So let's look at some of the other things that they advertise. And this is more, they call it fixed wireless. It's basically cellular. This is more for rural areas that actually have decent AT&T coverage. There's been recent information that has come about that AT&T has been cutting some people off. And as you can see, they only get up to 10 megs speed here. So it's not going to be blazing fast, but in a pinch, if it's, if you need internet, AT&T is the only game in town and they have quote unquote fixed wireless available, you can go through AT&T. And of course you can bundle it with your DirecTV service. So on to the next one. So here we have Verizon, and they're advertising theirs as LTE and 4G phone service in the home. So with that being said, again, you're going to get about 12 megs and 2 to 6 on the upload. Again, that's not going to cut it. So with that being said, let's take a look at some of the other things that they advertise. You can have it installed, and it looks like here there may be issues with condos, townhouses, and high rises, so keep that in mind. This is probably going to be more of an external antenna that they're going to install, as well as an in-home device, which is a good thing.
And this says this is a more powerful solution than their Verizon Jetpack, which is basically their Wi-Fi hotspot. And this says good for game consoles. Now, with that being said, I'd be leery because you got to keep in mind, if you're not playing anything, competitive, then that may be one thing. But if you're playing competitive gaming, you're going to need something more than 12 megs down and 2 to 6 megs up. So they have a few comments here about their shared data plan. So I'm wondering if you're sharing data with an existing cellular plan that you already have. Again, that could be a bit of a catch, especially if you're trying to upload YouTube videos. All right, so let's look at T-Mobile, who is my secondary front runner for home service at the moment. And I'm gonna tell you why I say secondary. While they do offer $50 unlimited upload download, you do have the speed limitations. There's no annual contract, no data cap, no hidden fees, the normal T-Mobile language, 24/7 quote unquote live tech support, so on and so forth. Basically everything you would get with a T-Mobile cell phone. The difference is they have a device that's used as a router. And here's the big catch. Here's why I was a little bit more leery. You have to use their app on Android or iOS to activate and to monitor and set up service with the router, amongst other things that we can talk about. I did make a phone call and got a call back pretty quickly. They said as far as upload and download, you can expect on the download side about 75 megs, which is respectable. And I want to say it was between 25 and 50 on the upload side, which is still 5 to 10 times greater than what I'm getting with Comcast for home service. So let's take a look at AT&T. I'd already kind of started playing around because it's probably going to be the selection I make. We're going to go ahead and look at some of their different pricing plans. So right now they're advertising $35 for 100 megs, which is respectable. So the 300 megs is looking like about $45 a month for 12 months. And a gig is about $60. Now remember, I plan to reevaluate this going down the line. And in 12 months, I'll be looking for a new service. So 300 megs, 600 megs is probably about the area we want to stay in. They have a couple of other plans advertised here that we can take a look at. The biggest thing I'm interested in, though, is how they stack up as far as upload and download, which isn't readily available here on their homepage. So you have to do a bit of digging. So if you look appropriately, you can find on one of the back-end pages on the AT&T website their advertised speeds and what to expect. They are pretty symmetrical with their upload and download speeds. At least that's what they advertise, which again, even if it's not 100% accurate, even if let's say they're advertising 100 megs on the download side and I'm only getting 50, 60, 70, that's still much greater than what I'm currently getting with Xfinity. That 5 megs is really the nail in the coffin for me as far as switching. So that's kind of why I'm looking at AT&T at this point. All right, so what have we learned? Cellular/fixed wireless internet has a way to go before it can legitimately challenge traditional home and hardwired ISPs. Depending on the network saturation and location relative to a good tower, your results can also vary. However, if consistent speed or quality aren't priority, they can provide a more cost-effective solution than traditional ISPs and some flexibility if traditional ISPs are unavailable. The upload speeds today may already challenge your current ISP for half the price, but again, consistency is not a promise. If you are not concerned with voiding your equipment's warranty, or if the device provided has the capacity to accept external antennas, you can boost your reception, making cellular potentially rival what you have today. But both soldering and conversion connectors may be needed to make the connection between the antenna and your wireless cellular device. The current device may be 4G or not have the towers available in your area to take full advantage of 5G networking. So at the end of the day, we are probably still at least a year out or even a new device away from truly being able to use 5G to replace your traditional ISP. More than likely, I'll be revisiting this next December when my 1-year contract is up with at&t. Okay, everybody, that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you guys learned something, you liked it, and if you did, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get notifications anytime I post new content. It's the end of the year, but with me being on break from work, I'll be posting quite a few videos here in the next couple of days / weeks, just depending on how long it takes me to get it out. We have a couple more Wise projects coming out and a couple other things I want to dip my toe in the water with. So stay tuned for that. And like I said, make sure you subscribe and you hit the notification button because they'll probably be coming fast and furious in the next couple of weeks.